Well, it's been a while and there is something new on the market. Let's talk about driver shafts from a company that really hasn't made one in a while. Welcome back to the McGolf Fitting Room. And if you would, like, subscribe, swing and hit the bell, follow me on the social platforms, and that way you get all the videos when they drop and you see what's going on in the shop. KBS, all those guys you see back here. We are very big with the KBS iron shafts. They have a, they have a fleet. All right, they have a fleet of iron shafts that basically go from top to bottom. And here as of late, they've gotten into graphite. The TGI Tour Graphite Iron shafts, the black ones behind me right there, have been one of their latest, and I would have to say very successful model. What the manufacturer has done in almost every instance, not all, but every instance, takes uniform bites out of the shaft all the way down. And what those bites are ways of transferring energy. That's probably the simplest way to do it. And he's designed that in his iron shafts. Well, he took that theory and put it into a driver shaft. So what they've come up with is the KBS TD shaft, tour driven. TD is tour driven. The maker's name is Kim Braley. He really puts things out on the tour first, and then he brings them into the market. So he tests them there. So it's got a nice, we'll call it iridescent red, and it goes into a very gloss black. Now in some models they are available in a matte black. I don't know which ones yet, but we will find out. It would be kind of cool if these were white maybe. However, he's also done something different. Now, and what is that difference? Well, so what did KBS do that was different? Well, they did a couple of things. They got the first shaft that starts off at 40 grams and the last one starts off at 80 grams. Now, what else is different? They don't use flex designators like A, R, S. They use designations in categories like category 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So what you're going to see is 1 being closer to an A, 2 to an R, 3 to an S, 4 to a tour, to an X, and then the 5 to a Tour X, which means it's pretty beefy. Now, does that mean you're going to find yourself a 40-gram Tour X? No, you're not going to. So you're going to start as the weight goes from 40 to 80, so will the stiffness, and it will follow. But again, the profiles are going to be a little bit tighter, and what I would say a little more stiffer than you would expect. And so if you're a guy that's an R-Flex and you're looking for something that's a little more aggressive to be able to handle that and still be in that 50-gram range or that area, then this might be what you're looking for. But let's go check and make sure. I've known Kim since the rifle days, and he has been very forthcoming with information once I can tie him down because he's very, very busy. And if we didn't mention it, he's quite into fishing too, and he's landed some whoppers. I've seen him on his Facebook page. Now that we've seen how they're made, now the real cool part is I get to introduce you into something else. So what's new? Well, what's new is that Golf Mechanics has sent me another machine to review. And since we're starting to do these shaft reviews, it kind of works hand in hand in that it is another frequency machine, yet it does shaft profiling amongst other stuff. So we ran it through its paces. Okay, what they were given, if we didn't go through this, is the 2 TD shafts. I've gotten a 50-gram and a 60-gram shaft. Both of them are in category 3, i.e. the stiff range. And so we put them through their paces. It's a 10-inch section all the way down. So when you're holding it at the very tip, we will use this weight, which is a 205-gram weight. When we get down towards the end, we use a bigger weight because the frequency numbers will get beyond the range of the machine. Went through and I did them twice, and I did them in different days just to make sure I could get I didn't get a different number, and I did not. That was really the important part here. What did it look like? Well, it looked like this. So now what does that mean? Well, it means is when you see the numbers, at least number one, I was operating the machine properly. Number two, if you see the numbers, my biggest fear is when somebody goes lighter, that the profile changes pretty dramatically. You expect it to be a tad softer, but if it's doing what it's supposed to, it should be close to the same, just lighter. And that's what we found out this was. So that's a good thing, and that's what we're going to be doing going forward. So when we start testing shafts, I'm going to take them in their 10-inch increments, get some numbers so they have some comparisons, so what we can expect going forward. So with the TD shafts in typical KBS, you know, and they're all based off of the tour shaft, so you're going to get this, what I call an even ball flight, maybe tabletop. That's where we're going to go. So the last bit is testing. Let's go test. All right, so the testing consists of using the Flight Scope X3 in order to give us our, you know, everything we need to know, ball spin, the whole 9 yards. Hitting off of the fiber belt mats, and that's the country club effect, into my net. You get to see that over there. Get warmed up just like you do every time, and I hit about, I don't know, 8 shots, 10 shots a piece, and the ridiculously low ones and the ridiculously high ones I got rid of, and what you see is in the middle. So you should have about 6 or 7 of these things. I haven't even looked at it yet, and 6 or 7 to see what it's all about. Let's go see what it's all about.
All right, we're reviewing the TD shafts from KBS, and it is the 60 gram and the 50 gram, both Cat 3, which we said earlier were the stiff shafts, and these are aggregate scores of how they performed. So the 60 was 250, 270, where the 50 gram was 253, 271. On average, the 50 was just a little bit straighter than the 60, both swinging just shy of 100 mile an hour, and the ball speed coming off was just about, what is that, about just under a mile and a half. Smash factor was almost dead solid perfect for both of them. The spin rate for the 60 was a little bit lower than it was for the 50. The 50 was hit a little bit higher than the 60, and they both came out of the air pretty doggone good. Angle of attack on both of them were just to the positive, and apparently I'm hitting a fade. So let's go check it out. All right, if I'm hitting the 60, this is what they look like. Most of them, now keeping in mind that I'm a lefty, so all the stuff you see on here is to the inside, the 3 on the out, and this pretty wide is off to the left, where the last one, 255, 275, and the first one, 252, 277, but that was more. So if we look at how it went, there's the first one, second one, third one, fourth one, fifth one, sixth one, seventh one. All right, so what did the 50 do? There's the 50. The 50 appears to be just about as distributed as the other one, but a little more even on each one, right? So you look at number 7, number 5, number 6, or number 4, number 3, number 2, number 1. Alrighty, so what did we look at here? Number 1 was 246 to 256, and 256 to 278 was the last one. So that's about what they looked at. So what's the grouping look like? If we look at the grouping, we see that the red is the 50 and the blue is the 60. They're laying right on top of each other, but they're only a few yards apart. So now the next question is, how much are inside the 10-yard mark? So we got 1, 2, 3 inside the 10-yard mark for the 50, where 1, 2, 3, 4 outside. For the 60, 1, 2, 3, 4, where 1, 2, 3 is on the outside. So you know, it depends on what it is that you're looking for. Okay, starting with the 60. So if we start with the 60 and we see how we're swinging, you can see that I'm just a little bit of the outside in, the more of the fanning here, where I'm a little more consistent coming back if we wanted to play it. And basically on the very first one, which we saw with the 60, the face was a little bit open, and that's what caused that one, where we go down to the 7th one, and I was just a tad bit shut. And again, that was the reason why it went into my inside. And 161 to the right, 159 to the right is almost a what you would call symmetrical type swing. Not too bad there. Just barely on the upswing, which is the way I like having it. And just a tad flatter, which is the reason why the Mizuno works so well for me. On the 50, if we go and look, again, not nearly as spread out, but it's still fanning. If we go to the bottom, a little bit left, a little bit open, which we saw, and a little bit closed, what I saw. So apparently what I'm doing is I'm learning from my mistakes and getting them closed. So we know that it flies just about as good as anything will be. And the question here is, how can I make it better if I'm a 50? And basically it just says hit it a tad bit lower, spin it a little bit less, and hit it a little bit faster, and I will carry it out there some more. So something to work on, right? I got to hit it down a little bit, which is really kind of, they just lower it on the tee and get a club and spin it less. On this guy, need to hit it again, hit it further, hit it about the same, just spin less, only about 800. And then I'm carrying it out a little bit further. And so that's going to be the objective, to carry it to this one, to see if I can hit one of these drives. So that's what you get when you deal with the flight scope, the different bits of information that you can get. And so that's where we're looking at. So you get to see the 60 one more time. Kind of, I think it more towards the middle with just a few on the outside versus the 50, and which it tends to went a little bit further, but tends to be more of a fan. I think I was a little more consistent overall with the 60. But you guys decide, which one would you guys hit? Is it purely about length, or is it about control at this particular point? So let's go talk more about the shaft.
All right, so you saw how they performed. Very, 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 very similar, right? The 50 gram, the 60 gram did basically what it should have, right? The profiles bore out that they were very, very close. It was just 10 grams lighter. The distances were very, very close. Just one was 10 grams lighter. And it was a difference between, what, a yard? I mean, come on. That's pretty good. Now, so what it comes down to in this particular issue, we'll take a look. What would you use? Would you use the 50 gram or would you use the 60 gram? Put it down in the show notes below and let me know. What, it comes right down to it. Which one would you use? Because the feel was very similar. I thought for just a moment that the 60 gram with a little bit of weight felt a little bit more, beefy. And just felt like I could jump on a little bit more, but as I got used to the 50 gram, I felt the same way. So you could go either way. So how would this work? Well, if I'm fitting you and I'm looking at the numbers and it's just slightly different, and what I'm waiting on is reactions while you're hitting. Normally what will happen is, wow, that was a really good one. Wow, that was a really good one. Or, oh, I didn't like that one. Or this feels light, or this feels heavy, or something along that lines. I'm listening to all the negatives and the positives in order to pick which one would work for you. And that's what we were doing. So if you're interested in a new driver shaft, you're looking for something that is definitely a performer, because I improved, and I improved pretty good, really, with using this particular shaft. Contact your local KBS dealer or give these guys a shot. Look up their categories and make sure that you're getting into the right one. And there's bunches and bunches of weight categories. I can't believe it's just a plethora of things to check out. So hopefully you like what you saw. And as always, let's see your scores. Go low.